welcome to Astrophotography Tutorials. Today I have a special guest star, Christopher Gomez, and he's going to cover PixInsight processing with galaxies. Now, you know PixInsight, it's a little bit confusing. You've got all these different functions, but Chris is going to show us his steps with ScreenTransferFunction, DynamicBackgroundExtraction, HistogramTransformation, HDRMultiscaleTransform, Luminance Mask, and Deconvolution.
Today we're going to be showing you how we process galaxies using both PixInsight and Photoshop. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and visit Harry's Astro Shed, and under the tutorials he has some great videos here for you to learn how to use PixInsight, especially for newbies. You can click on there and he'll show you how to use PixInsight to do some pre-processing, basically image registration, calibration, and integration. So on our video today, we're gonna skip those steps and start from a stacked image. So let's go ahead and minimize that and open our image here that we have of M81 and M82. Now when you first open it, it will have three separate windows. Basically, the first two windows are your high and low pixel rejections, and your last window here will be your actual image integration. And this is nice because it allows you to kind of see the pixels that are being discarded, and this is good so that you can make sure that none of the good pixels or things that you want in your image are being thrown away. So as you can see, all the images start out as pretty much dark windows because they're linear and they haven't been stretched. So let's go to the Process Explorer here and use the Screen Transfer function. Now what this Screen Transfer function does is it allows you to auto stretch your images so you can see what the information that it is in those images and stored in there and what it potentially could be. For these images, let's look at all the pixels that are being rejected. So go ahead and click that little icon there, and if you zoom in there, you can see all the bad pixels that are in my image that I really don't want. So these are just kind of for your own information, so I'll go ahead and discard them and now work on my actual stacked image. So I'm going to click that icon there. This is going to maximize it to the window, and initially if you have all the layers, all the channels linked together and you hit the icon, you're going to see how the image is there and what you could potentially have there. And as you can see, we have a very strong bias there in some color, a gradient here going from darker to lighter, and that's mainly the color bias that you see there's mainly because it's auto stretch with all our channels linked. So if we go ahead and unlink them and hit that again, it kind of takes that into account that all the channels may not be even, and it will try to do its best to auto correct things for you and color balance them as best as you can. Now this tool is good because it is only kind of a preview of what you can potentially have, and it really doesn't apply any of this stretching for you. You can easily go back to the original by hitting the reset button, and again you can see what is there. So it allows you to work with this image while it's stretched without even stretching it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to first eliminate this gradient that we have going across this image, going from darker all the way to lighter. So how we're going to do that is we're going to use our dynamic background extraction, and I'll drag it out here so that I can easily have it available there. So let's close out that and open this next one here, and basically what you will be doing is placing samples all over this image. Now particularly eliminating gradients with this image is a little bit easier because you have just two galaxies, some stars in the background, but really a lot of dark empty space. And that's really nice because your goal is to place all the samples in all the empty space that's around there. And you can easily go clicking, one by one and placing all these samples all over the place. But if you wanted to do it automatically, you can generate samples here. So let's look at the sample generation tab there, and usually I like keeping the sample radius at 12, and for galaxies like this we we're gonna place about 25 samples per row, and you're gonna hit generate. Now, as you can see, basically it's looking at this image and it's placed a couple samples all around here. If we want to generate more samples, we're going to decrease this minimum sample weight to about 0.05 and hit generate again. And so it's going to start increasing our samples again, and you can see how there's bad samples here, and basically these bad samples means that the red X's here that you see is that when you run this application, it's not going to take these samples into account. So if we increase the tolerance here to about 1.5 or let's say 1.7 and we hit generate again, not only is it going to increase our samples that it generates, but also you can see all the bad samples that it had generated are gone. Now you can still see that there are some red or bad samples here, and if you wanted to include those, you just kind of raise that maybe to 1.9 and hit resize all, and you eliminated that bad sample, but you still have that one there, and so you can do raise this up to 2 or let's say 2.1 and resize, and you can see that it is now gone. Now what you can see here is that it has placed samples all over the place, including our galaxies and even over some stars. So if we go down here and look at let's say this sample in particular, it's right on top of a star. And so this is not going to be good, because basically we want all our samples in empty space, stuff that doesn't have good signals, good galaxy and nebulosity and stars areas. And so what that is going to do is extract a background that is not really great, and I can show you what it will do here if we run our extraction of our background there. So if you hit subtract, if you change that to subtraction and go ahead and hit generate or execute, it will go through its regular routine, doing all that it does, and will show you what it does to the background. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit pause on this video, let that application run through, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so our our dynamic background extraction has finished, and what it generates is your new image with the background extracted and also a model of what it extracted. Again, these are linear images, so they're going to be dark. So let's go ahead and open our ScreenTransferFunction and go ahead and hit the actual ScreenTransferFunction tool, and you can see here what it is extracting. And basically you have your gradient that's being extracted here from dark to light, but if you look at where our galaxy used to be, it's extracting some of the light from our galaxy. And let's go ahead and just discard this one and go ahead and apply the ScreenTransferFunction to our galaxy. And what you can see there is, since some of our samples were placed in the galaxy area, you're going to have these weird dark kind of halos around our galaxies in different areas. So again, what you want to make sure and do is place our samples only in dark areas and delete the ones that are in our galaxy. So let's go ahead and close that and close this, and let's go ahead and zoom in here and show you what we will do. And essentially what I will do is move every sample and make sure it is not overlying a star. Just kind of go one by one, and I know this may be a little bit of a tedious process, and you can go again, place your own samples. I like generating my samples because it just makes it easier for me to move my samples one by one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause this video here again, move all my samples to where I want to move them, and we'll come back and show you what we have. Alright. Okay, so we have moved all our samples to make sure that they are actually not on our galaxies. If you can see there, our M81 M82, and really no samples right on top of stars. So let's go ahead and zoom out here, and you can see again all our samples laid out everywhere, not on the galaxies and on the stars. So again, we're gonna look under the target image correction and hit the actual subtract, and go ahead and hit the execute button there. And this is going to again run its thing, so let's go ahead and pause and come back when it's done. Okay, so this should be just finishing up there, and again it will pop up both our background model here behind, and let's go ahead and use our screen transfer function to see what it does there. And you can see kind of our model going from dark to light, and that's what we're trying to extract there. So let's go ahead and X that out. And again, when we auto stretch it here, you should be able to see kind of no gradient, everything pretty much evened out, and you can see that things are just a little bit kind of noisier, overstretched. But again, this is not a permanent stretch. This is just kind of potentially what can be there. And so when we manually stretch it, we're not going to overstretch things this far, and we'll be fine. So let's go ahead and close out our dynamic background extraction, and also our screen transfer function. We are going to reset the image because we're going to stretch it manually. Our background image here, our original one, if you want to keep it around, you can just minimize it, or if you wanted to close it out, you can just close it out. I'll just keep it minimized there and move the actual new image that we're working with here. So we'll close this out, and how we stretch this image is using the HistogramTransformation function. So let's drag that over here and double click on it there, and as you can see, here's our basic window. And what we want to make sure that we're viewing is any window that's open, it will show here, but we want to show the dynamic, the one that we extracted, which is the dynamic background extraction there. And as you can see, it's very dark because all our signals are stuck here to the black point to the back end. So if we go ahead and start dragging our middle slider over, we can see how our peaks start coming into play. And usually what I will initially like to stretch things to is about to this point over here, kind of between these two lines. And you don't have to do it all in one shot. You can do it initially, because as you get closer to this point over here, any movement is kind of very jerky and very large. So I'll do this initial stretch and hit the square button here, which is our execute button, and we're able to see how things are starting to stretch. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the full maximize window so I can see everything again, and hit the reset button so that you can continue stretching it little by little. And now what I will do again, like I said, I will hit this these middle peaks so that they are between these first two lines. And so right there looks pretty good, and I'll go ahead and again hit the execute button there. Now when we're looking at this image, when we're zooming in, as far as the background goes, the image looks very nice and clean. Not a lot of noise in our background, and this is the image that we want to keep to actually use for our background. So let's go ahead and save this as, and let's go ahead and go to where this folder is, which is under the desktop. And it's going to be M81 and M82. We're going to save it as a TIFF file, and I'm going to save it as M81 M82 PixInsight background. We'll hit save, hit OK, and we're going to save it as 16-bit and unclick those two boxes there. Hit OK. And again, that image was mainly to use it as our background so that when we continue to stretch this image, and you'll see how the noise will come in, we're able to use the background image that is the least noisy. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset this. And now my main goal for stretching these galaxies is to get this peak still to be centered here, but for the base of these peaks to actually span from gap to gap there. And so I will continue stretching this over and now lower the black point to kind of get these peaks to again be between these two. And right about there looks good. So you can actually preview what you're doing in live view mode by hitting this circle icon down here, which is a real-time preview, and you can toggle it on and off, and you can see how what you're actually doing, and you can actually toggle things off and on here, and it will allow you to see them in real time. So go back here and hit, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to hit OK. Alright, so what we have here is our image stretched just a little bit more. As you can see, our background maybe gets a little bit more noisy, but definitely we have our galaxies kind of showing through there. And let's go ahead and zoom out all the way again. Again, you can try to stretch this a little bit more, and let's see what happens. If it gets a little bit too noisy, then we'll just keep what we got. But again, mainly what I'm trying to do is get this peak to span this whole area there. So hit execute. And there we go. So I'm happy with this stretch for our galaxies. It's really brought out a lot of the information that is stored in this image for these two galaxies. But if you look at the cores of these galaxies, they're pretty bright, and a lot of the information like the dust lanes and things like that is kind of a little bit blown out by how bright things are there. So at this point we're going to apply some HDR modules here that we have available in PixInsight to get all that information out of the core of the galaxies. So we use this HDRMultiscaleTransformation tool, and we'll go ahead and drag it out here. And what I'm going to do is create two previews here by hitting Alt and the letter N, and then drawing a box over my galaxy there, and then hit Alt N again, and we're going to draw a box there. And you'll see the tabs pop up here where we have preview 1 for that first galaxy and preview 2 here for the second galaxy. So using our HDR multiscale transformation, usually I like using it around 6 and one iteration, and go ahead and click the de-ringing module here. And basically what the de-ringing does, a lot of times you'll end up with these dark halos around these stars, and this will help prevent things from those rings from forming. And let's go ahead. Anything you do under a preview window is not going to apply it permanently to your actual master image there. So this is a great way of previewing what the effects can do for you, and you can kind of do it by trial and error and see what it does for your image there. And so this is what would happen basically if you apply this function without any mask at all. And as you can see here, you get these dark rings and things kind of really things are really brought out here as far as our dust lanes, but anything that we kind of do with PixInsight we always want to do a luminance mask. So you can easily go back here to the undo and then redo, and it will kind of show you what effects you have applied. But let's go back to our regular image and extract the luminance mask from here, which you can click on this icon here and it will extract the luminance mask for you. So here's our luminance mask, and what we're going to do to apply this mask to our actual master image is we're going to drag it down here to the empty space, and the mask is going to show red. Now don't close out this mask because the program needs it to be open in order to use the information that's stored there. So I will just drag it off here to the side, and for you to actually see the image so it doesn't look red like this, we'll go under mask and click show mask to remove it. So let's go back to our preview and go ahead and execute that multi-scale transformation at 6 layers and 1 iteration. And now you can see how things here are a little bit more subtle, but when you toggle things on and off, you can really see how all these dust lanes really start to pop out, and how we're not getting these dark rings around our stars. Now you can play with more iterations or fewer iterations. Now if you put it at 4 and run the actual function, you can see how things change, and now you get kind of just a different effect on that galaxy, kind of, you know, not as bright of a core, but I really don't like how that galaxy looks, so I will keep it at 6 iterations and go ahead and run it, and you'll see what it does. So I like how this portion of the galaxy looks at 6 iterations, and now let's go to our other galaxy and hit 6 iterations there. Now if we toggle things on and off, you can see how some of our dust lanes are popping out, but if we drop this to about 4 iterations and hit the execute button, you'll see how much nicer the core here of those the dust lanes in the core really pop out in this galaxy. Now the problem comes with the problem that we have now is that we have essentially one image here, but we have different settings that we like for one galaxy and different settings that we like for another galaxy. So unfortunately, PixInsight won't allow you to apply separate parameters of the same function to this one image. So what we will have to do is actually run a set of parameters for one galaxy and then duplicate that image and also run it the different parameters for the second galaxy. So how you duplicate this image is going ahead and just click on the main image and drag it off to the side. Now the image is only going to duplicate the actual image, it's not going to duplicate the previews, and so what we want to make sure is that we apply the luminance mask as well to our duplicate image. So let's go to mask, show mask, and it's already going to be not showing it for you. So for this clone that we did over here, what we're going to do is for M82, we're going to go ahead and hit the execute button and allow it to do what it does, so that we can see what it will show us for this final image. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and pause it and let it run through, and then we'll come back when it's done. Okay, so it has finished doing the HDR function, and let's go ahead and blow this up here and zoom in closely over here. Now looking at the image, we remember that at 4 iterations we didn't like what it did to M81, but at 4 iterations we really like what it did to M82. So we'll go ahead and keep this aside and go back to our original one, and now let's go ahead and bump that up to 6 and hit execute so that we get the desired effects for M81. And again, I'll pause this here for a second, let it run, because it takes just a little bit of time on my computer, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what it has done for us. And again, we like the effects that it did for M81 on one image, but when we look at M82 over here, we really prefer what it has done with the 4 iterations. So now we have 2 images, and we're going to go ahead and close this out. And then later on, what we will do is we will merge these images in Photoshop, picking out M82 from one image and then M81 for another image. So one last thing I will do here before we move into Photoshop is do a little bit of deconvolution. Now, if you look at this image, it's starting to look great, but what I want to do is sharpen things a little bit, and that's what our deconvolution can do for us. Now, if you search on YouTube, deconvolution, a real nice video by Mike Wiles will come out about how to use the deconvolution with a star mask, as well as a point spread function, and that's real nice if you are using it for the entire image, sorry. But if you're just using it for a galaxy here, and this galaxy in relation to the whole image is really small, what we're going to do is ignore that, because we can easily kind of do things in Photoshop to mask out the side effects that it does for our whole image. So let's go ahead into the processes tab up here and go ahead and hit and open up the deconvolution. Now, again, using that link there on YouTube, if you had done your own point spread function, you can actually go in here and actually, pick whichever one that you had actually fabricated there. But again, we are going to use just the standard point spread function that it has there. Again, this is done with a Luminance Mask on, and we're going to go ahead and bump that up to about 25 iterations, and again hit that de-ringing function there. So let's go ahead and go to preview over here and hit the execute button and see what it does. Now it's going to run through 25 of these iterations and then come up with an image. All right. So again, we can go ahead and use the undo button here for a preview, and if you kind of look closely, things here are looking a little bit blurry, but when we do the deconvolution, things kind of sharpen up quite a bit. So blurry and then back to sharp. Now again, what the side effects of not using your point spread function and a actual star mask to help in your de-ringing is you'll get these little dark circles around your stars and things like that. But since again we're not applying this to the entire image, just the actual galaxies, which are small, I can easily mask that out in Photoshop, and we'll show you how we do that, and we won't have to go through the longer process of doing that custom point spread function that you do if you were applying it to this whole image. So what I'm going to do is apply the deconvolution that I like there at 25 iterations, and I'll apply it for both our M81 and then here our M82 images, and then what we're going to do is come back when that's done and pick up from there. So let me go ahead and hit pause, and we'll come right back. Okay, so our deconvolution here for our second image is going to finish up just shortly, and then we're going to go ahead and save both images now separately. So we'll go ahead and close our deconvolution there and go ahead and save each one. So I'll save this one as M81. We're going to say PixInsight HDRMultiscaleTransform and decon for deconvolution. Hit OK. 16 bits, and let's go ahead and uncheck those boxes. Hit OK. And file, save as.
Chris made PixInsight look so easy. Make sure to stick around for part 2 coming up. Also, check out Chris's YouTube channel. He has a great set of videos on astrophotography there. If you have an astrophotography tip or trick in hardware or software and you would like to make a video, please contact me at dhubble@gmail.com. If this is your first time watching, I would like you to subscribe. I publish 2 astrophotography videos on the 1st and 15th of every month. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.